up, guys? Welcome to Sharpen Your Sword podcast, episode number 3. I want to say thank you for all of our subscribers, all of our followers, all of our supporters. Really appreciate you guys. This podcast, we're looking forward to bringing you value, to making you sharper, making your sword sharper, mentally, physically, in business, in your personal life, and across different parts of your life. Today, on episode 3, we're going to have my good friend and long-time friend, Donovan Casteel, on the show. Welcome, Mr. Donovan Casteel.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So Donovan and I met back in the day when I first started training. When I first started training with Jonathan Border at Germantown Baptist Church. I think I met you when you were 16 or 17.
Yeah, 16. 16.
So I was like 14. You're 30 right now, right?
Yeah, I just turned 30.
Yeah, so he's a couple years older than me. So he was 16 years old, and I remember we were the youngest in the class. I don't think there's anybody else younger than us.
They were all karate guys.
Yeah. They were karate guys. Well, we were in the Muay Thai class, and I remember meeting him and starting to talk to him, and we became friends. And pretty much ever since, we've lost contact at one point, but back in about 2014, we got back together again, started talking together again, and ever since then we've been together, one way or another, talking about business, training together. He's one of the coaches at my gym. He's a very good friend of mine. He's like my brother. He helps me in my fights. He helps me in my competitions. He helps me in business. And so we've gotten very close. He's one of the closest guys to me. And that's why I want him on this episode early on. And he's come a very, very, very long way. From working a regular 9 to 5 to working for himself and becoming a completely different guy and becoming very sharp over the last few years. So I'm going to pass it over to him, and I'm going to let him talk to us a little bit about our journey together and talk to us about his journey as a business owner now, and being self-employed for himself and not working a regular 9 to 5 job.
Hey, so I'll start. I started at Jonathan's Border's gym. I think they talked about it previously. We were at a church at the time, Germantown Baptist. So it was right before I turned 15. I was very unathletic. Let me start with that. I was short, I was fat, and I didn't play any sports. I was just in chess club. And I was talking to a guy at my high school that had trained during the summer. He just trained during the summer, judo and jiu-jitsu with Jonathan. I was like, I want to do that. And so I told my parents about it. They took me one night, and I fell in love with it. I started out with just jiu-jitsu for the first year. And did my first competition after 6 months, and I was scared to death. There was a bad traffic jam. We're on our way it was in Little Rock. There was a bad traffic jam on the way there. I remember being so nervous because I'd never done a competition of any kind really, that I was like, okay, maybe we won't make it. I don't have to do this. and it happened, and we did make it. And I only did gi division, but I won both my matches. And that it didn't help the nerves at all. I still get nervous to this day. And then after my first year there, my parents made me commit to jiu-jitsu before I got to do Thai. And so after my first year, I got to start doing Thai. And I fell in love with it. I still have, I can't really say which one is more important to me or which one I like more. I started doing it, and then there was, at that time, if you were under 18, you didn't really have any opportunities for fight. Like I think in Mississippi now, you can do MMA at 16. So the only opportunities we had, especially in Thai, was to go to IKF every year, which was a big kickboxing tournament in Orlando. Or Jonathan used to put on his own shows once or twice a year, and we could get on those. So Orlando was coming up, IKF, and I wanted to do that. I had only been training for like 6 months at the time, 9 months by the time we went. And I remember telling Jonathan, and him telling me after the fight, he was like, I didn't really think you were going to do it. I thought you were going to be another one of those kids who just talk about it and never do it. And so, but we went, and I did. I lost by a split decision my first fight. It was back then they had no experience bracket, so it was just weight. So I remember the weight class I was in. There was a kid in there who was 17 that had almost 60 fights already, and Jonathan was like, "You're not fighting him. Drop the whole class." And so we looked at the next class, and there was another guy. It was like 20-something fights and only had a couple losses. So we dropped one more, and I did that one. The guy I fought he had already had 7 fights, and, we went, and it was a good fight. I lost by split decision. And then I fell in love with competing altogether after that. We did every jiu-jitsu tournament, every opportunity I had for a kickboxing fight, all the way through high school. And then, like when Mo was talking about, we fell out in, I think it was 2011, beginning of 2012. Jonathan's gym shut down for different reasons. And I was lost. I had no idea where to go. I tried probably 4 or 5 different gyms and just kind of bounced around and trained just to really spar and roll. But I couldn't really ever find a home. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then I started, I got a job working out of town. I fell out of training for about 2 years. And when I was at home on a break in between jobs for about a week and a half, and I heard that Jonathan was teaching at UFC Cordova then.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to drop in. And so I went and I dropped in, and my life's changed since then, because I was like, now I got this back. And for me, jiu-jitsu, generally, I know everybody says it, and it's kind of cliche now, but it really did change my life. And I say jiu-jitsu more than Thai because of the bad situations you're in all the time. Like they talk about when you're mounted, when you have knee on belly, getting beat up by a smaller guy. I'm not a smaller guy. I'm like 220 pounds now. I usually, in shape, walk around 205. And so getting beat up by a smaller guy is really humbling. And not being able to get a 120-pound woman off at the top of you is humbling. And so it strengthens you mentally to be able to do all that. And it's carried that throughout my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me scoot up.
Yeah.
He just went over that with me, and I failed this whole time. And so it strengthened that for me this whole time. Kickboxing's done the same, similarly, but I think jiu-jitsu's just carried a part over. I think jiu-jitsu truly is for everybody. I'm more passionate about it as far as teaching and welcoming everybody. I think everybody can do jiu-jitsu versus Thai. Not everybody wants to get punched and kicked in the head all day. And so jiu-jitsu, it is physically demanding. It does teach you a skill that could keep yourself safe. And then on top of just the community you get. So let's see, after we started again, I hadn't competed in about 3 years at all. And I was purple belt for 6 years. And then so everybody said they were going to this jiu-jitsu tournament. And I was like, well, I'm going to start doing that again. And so I did one, got second, lost to a really good guy in the finals. 1 second left, I tapped from an armbar.
I remember that.
And I had gotten out of, I think he triangle armbarred me like 4 times before he finally got it. And I tapped with 1 second left. I didn't know there was 1 second, but I think if I would have waited 1 more second, my arm would have got broke. It was really tight.
Yeah, his name is, I think it was Giovanni Ortiz.
Yeah.
So he's a very good black belt right now, competes a lot. He's out of like Nashville area.
Yeah.
And he was on the tear back then. And I remember when we were going to compete, I used to see him at a competition. So I used to see him and a guy named Emilio Hernandez. 2 guys that used to compete like – I mean, they still compete like crazy, but I was watching those guys compete. I was a blue belt, and they were purple belts. And I remember they used to go into every tournament and just go through the division, just go through them, everybody.
Wow.
And they're very good. And I remember watching Donovan. That's when we went to Nago, Franklin, Tennessee. We took a group out, and I got smashed that tournament. I was so nervous, it backfired on me. But I remember like, oh, Donovan's gonna go against Giovanni, and I was like, this is gonna be good. And y'all were just going nonstop for literally 6 minutes, 5, 6 minutes, nonstop. He's throwing triangles out. I'm like, I'm not worried about it. Donovan's like gumbo, like no arm bars. You're just getting out of them. You're double jointed, right?
Yes, that helps.
That helped a little bit. You're just getting out of them. You're escaping good, and just the whole time, just dude shooting up submissions. Donovan's escaping, and then the last minute he goes triangle, then an arm bar. I think.
Yeah,
I never forgot that. Cause I was like, man, cause I knew how good he was, right? I knew you were tough, and until today, you're the toughest I roll with. You're one of the best guys I know, and I knew how tough that guy was, but I didn't know how tough you were, right? How good your jiu-jitsu was. Until I saw that, and I'm like, man, that was crazy.
and I always did I teach it because I like it. I'm not a fast guy. Slamming the knee down and walking over. And I got out of all the previous ones from the same way. With that one, I slammed it down with one hand, and then he had my other arm extended out, and he still got the arm bar.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't free up that other arm. But he was a smaller guy. And at that time, we were in the purple belt division, and he was still a 4-stripe blue belt.
Yeah.
He didn't get purple till after a couple tournaments after that. He kept competing in purple belt division and running through everybody, but he didn't. I don't think he got purple till like a tournament or two after that.
Yeah, he's good.
And then, so we did that, and then I think after that, you had started training for your first MMA fight.
Possibly, yeah.
Not too long after.
Yeah.
And I remember then we didn't have our own gym. And when we were at the place we trained at, they would not let us train like they would never give me a key to where we could train. So we would always go into my church where we had carpet on concrete floors. And we would train up there. And I think we had a half-inch puzzle piece match, which does not help at all when you're doing takedowns or on the ground.
Yeah.
They make your feet feel better if you're standing up, but that's it. And we would go there and leave UFC Cordova at like 9 or 10, head there and train a lot of times till like 1 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Sometimes just hang out and train 20 minutes. And then when we were getting ready,
that's happened a lot. I remember those. I still got pictures from some of them nights that were me and you just hanging out. And I remember sitting on the back of your truck until 1 in the morning. Yeah. We said we're gonna go train.
Yeah.
And we trained for like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and we just started talking. And the problem with me and Donovan is we talk so much. Like, it's like
nothing gets done.
Nothing gets done, really. Like, unless we both walk away from each other, we talk. We have so much to talk about every single time. Even if I just saw him this morning, if I start talking to him this evening, we'll talk until midnight. And so now, the last year or so, we literally, especially we'll get to that point where he started working and I started working more, is we don't sit next to each other at night. Like, especially when I used to lock up the gym before Giovanni started working. Me and you would sit in the park line until 1 in the morning still, So I remember those nights.
It was, I miss those. And that's, he did his first MMA fight and dominated and won. And then I remember helping him train and just working with him, getting ready for it. And then when he did it and I was there watching, I was like, I want to do this again. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't done any stand-up competition-wise in 6 years, and I hadn't done MMA ever. It was something I wanted to do just because I was coaching at that time, jiu-jitsu and Thai, and we had a bunch of guys that fought. And so I felt like I couldn't be a good coach unless I at least done MMA a couple times. So Thai was always what was the most fun to me to compete in, but I knew I needed to do that to be a better coach. And so I told Jonathan, and he got me a fight. And he was like, what weight do you want to fight at? And I hadn't fought in 6 years, so I was just like, let's do the same weight. And it was 155. I was walking around at 193 at that time. That was horrible. I remember we went through that camp. It was like 2.5, 3 months, just because I had to get so much weight off. And then we get there, and the gym we were cutting weight at, scale was like 2 pounds heavier than the fight scales.
I remember
So,
that. I was pissed.
So we go to weigh in. And let me backtrack, because there's a funnier part to that, because Mo fought on that same card with me, and we were cutting weight together. And I
remember that.
And so I remember we're in the sauna, and I was like, cool, you're going to be here. I said, I'm just going to take a nap and sweat while I sleep, and then you wake me up, because it's like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. We were not sweating at all. It was taking forever. And I was like, and you can just wake me up. And he was getting so mad at me. Yeah. He was like, you're going to die. I was like, I won't die if you wake me up in 20 minutes.
I remember that, man. Like, so fighters obviously know this. Weight cutting is like one of the worst things you can do. It's so bad. It's so bad for your body, but fighters do it. Everybody cuts weight. You don't want to be mismatched. Like, that's why we cut weight, right? People say, why won't you stop cutting weight? Well, I fight at 135. Okay, I walk around 150, 155. And I'm a smaller 135er in my opinion. There's guys that cut from 165, 170, 175 to 135. You know? I think that's the stupidest thing ever. So in the process of our weight cutting, we water load, and then we dehydrate ourselves. Obviously, we're dieting out through and eating clean for the 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, which drops our weight a little bit. But most of the weight cuts in fights is water cutting, okay? Because when you water load and you water cut, that last 10 pounds that you're cutting of water, you put them on the day before the fight.
Yeah.
So now you have an advantage, and that's everybody's mindset. And I quit doing that after that weight cut. Actually, I did it one more time, just because I struggled with it because some things happened before my third fight, which threw my weight off. But I quit doing it because of that second fight where me and you fought at. Because that experience that I went through, it was scary, and it was extremely hard on both of our bodies, right? I was cutting from 155. You know, he was cutting from 193 to 155. I'm going from 155 to 135. And for some reason, something went wrong, and our water was not coming out. We couldn't cut the water. And that first night, we started at 6 or 7 p.m.
Yeah.
If I remember. You know, 6 or 7. That's like the time I usually start. And this is a Thursday, by the way. Okay? And we've been there from 6 to midnight. And we're not losing any weight. We lost, like the first couple sessions, we lost a pound, 2 pounds. And we're doing sauna, hot tub, sauna, hot tub, sauna, hot tub, taking breaks in between. Okay? I don't do sauna no more because of that experience. Sauna, in my opinion, is way too hard on your body. Way too hard on your body. So I quit messing with it. After that time, I quit getting into sauna. But that night, I started forgetting names of people.
Wow.
I started forgetting I couldn't unlock my phone. I forgot the passcode. I forgot phone numbers. I started like seeing things. I started like going like black. I was obviously very weak, right? I can barely walk, you know. All this started happening that night. And the thing was, the weight was not coming off. And then I had more to cut the next day because we split it, you know. And me and Donovan got into it. You know, it wasn't like got into it like a fist fight. But, bless you.
Thank you.
But when you're cutting weight, and we all joke about being hangry, right? When you're hangry in fight camp, that's a different kind of hangry. Like for me, the last 7 to 14 days, don't talk to me. Now, when it gets to last 7 days, don't even look at me. The last 3 to 4 days, just stay away from me.
He always looks mad.
Like everybody says I always look mad, you know? But dude, it's like you don't have water, you don't have food, you have to fight in a few days, like, and you're barely eating anything. You know, so you're hangry, you're stressed, you're in a zone, like, and people want to be jolly, like, what's up, bro? I'm like, bro, this ain't time for that. I'm saying, like, let's do that after Saturday. And the worst part is when you're cutting weight and everybody wants to be happy, and I like that. Or everybody's like, how you feel? They keep asking you that question. Like, bro, I'm trying to survive not dying my weight cut first. You know what I'm saying? That's like the biggest fight before a fight is the weight cut. But anyway, we're cutting weight and he's not losing weight and I'm not losing weight. And we're the only ones there for each other. Like, we didn't have anybody to watch us. Usually you should have somebody to watch you. Always don't cut weight like us. Always seek a professional expertise. But we were there for each other. That's it. And we had to keep each other motivated. And so after the first few sessions, I mean, you're talking about 6 hours of cutting water. You know what I'm saying? You're not talking about an hour. You're talking about 6 hours. We would get in there, take a break, lay on the cold floor. Like, we'll just lay down. People were looking at us like we're crazy, right? And there was a point where we got in there, he's like, Mo, I'm not getting out of the sauna. I'm going to just lay down and take a nap. And I'm like, looked at him, I'm like, what do you mean you're going to take a nap? Like, I'm not going to take that risk. God forbid. You don't know what can happen when you fall asleep. Your body's already dead. And then you're going to shut your eyes and then you're going to stay there for 30 minutes because we do a certain limit, certain time limit. And he wanted to go over that limit. I'm like, no. And he's like, why? And I'm like, bro, anything can happen. We're not going to start breaking rules now. Yeah. I had that sense in my head, right? And we did that, and then we go into the locker room. And when we went into the locker room, it was time for a break. And he was like, Mo, I'm finna go back out there, or something like that. And that's when me and you got into it.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was.
I just knew I couldn't miss weight on my first fight after 5 years, even though I made a dumb decision to cut that much.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't miss weight.
And me and him literally like stood up. I was in front of him, and neither one of us finna do anything. We don't have the energy to do anything, right? And we just started going at it. You know, like, bro, he's arguing one thing, I'm arguing another thing. I'm like, no, that's not how we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it the right way. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We're doing it the right way. And I don't think we got home until 1 or 2 that night.
And then did it again the next morning.
And then the next morning, first thing in the morning, we're right back and doing it again. And it was horrible. It was so bad. And that experience specifically, that changed weight cutting for me. And I found out the way that I do it now is the best way possible, most optimal way for me. You know, I don't put on the weight as much anymore. I don't care about the weight. I just worry about my skill set and my conditioning and my mental and physical health more than anything now. Because when I forgot people's names and I forgot my passcode and I forgot things and I start seeing colors and I started seeing these and I start seeing like black screens.
Wow.
Then I was like, yeah, that can't happen again. You know? And that changed everything. But yeah, we're cutting weight. Donovan was like a dead man walking on weight day.
So I broke 2 of my knuckles 3-4 weeks out from that fight. I didn't tell Jonathan, our coach, about it at all because I knew he would get really frustrated with me about it and possibly tell me to pull out. I did it boxing. I didn't wrap my hands because I thought my knuckles were tough and I never needed to wrap my hands. So I broke them. And then I couldn't really hit mitts hard. I couldn't spar really hard. I just used my lead hand a lot. And so we'll fast forward back to the weight cutting. I just wanted to add that part because so much stuff came up to that fight. I was like, gosh. I remember walking in because we were downtown. So we had to walk down, park a ways away and then walk downtown. There was a couple guys that helped me walk close to the building because I could barely walk. I was so dehydrated. And then we get there, and it says I was 157.1. Well, they give you a pound, so you have to be 155.9. And I was 155.9 when we left the Lifetime where we were cutting at. And I was like, well, what do we do? Because we only had an hour left, and I had to lose 1.2 pounds. So we found a YMCA downtown, went there, and they let us cut weight for free. So we sat in a hot tub. And for some reason, the hot tub, I don't know why, did it, and I was able to get it off. Couldn't even weigh myself. We didn't have time because I had to make it to weigh-ins. And we get back there, and I was exactly 155.9. We made it, and then I got to finally drink water.
Yeah.
Never. That was my 5th fight altogether, if you count the tie fights, and I've never had a weight cut that hard. I always did it by sauna. Never after that point.
That was the hardest one for me too.
That's crazy, Coach Donovan. So in that story, like people hear, like you broke your knuckles, you had to cut so much weight, right? That sounds super tough. Like, what prevented you from quitting? Like, did you ever anytime have doubt, like, dang, I don't want to do this?
Yeah, during the weight cut, I definitely did. It was like all I thought about. But I didn't want to let anybody down. Like, Jonathan, our coach, had worked really hard for me, and he was excited that I wanted to fight again. And then me and Mo were working really hard, and I didn't want to let those two people down. Just couldn't let them down just to quit. If the guy was better than me and beat me up, that's one thing, but I couldn't just quit. And so fight night, I was the first fight that night. And we go in, and Jonathan's wrapping my hands, and he goes to put my gloves on, and I flinch. And because I hurt my knuckles, and he was like, did you do something to your hand? I was like, yeah, I broke a couple knuckles. He was like, you freaking idiot. And he was like, well, you got to make it count. And so I was like, yes, sir. And we go out, and I threw it one time and knocked him out in 22 seconds on that fight. And it hurt like crazy afterwards. But I won that one. And then Mo fought a couple fights later and dominated his.
It's crazy. Feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember that. That was 2015?
Yes. Yeah.
2015. Man, that's 8 years ago. Man.
That's no, it was later than that.
It was either 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, I think 16.
Maybe 16. That's crazy.
Because it was the end. It was in September.
Yeah. So it had to be 2016.
Yeah.
I think it was 2016. Man.
That was a good feeling. And so I wanted to do it again because I had a goal of doing at least a couple, and then I was like, I'll see what I want to compete in after that. And so my next MMA fight is what I learned the most from out of anything. And I say that because you truly fight how you train. And so I was still a purple belt up to this point. I've been purple belt for like 6 years at the time. And I got my brown belt that day of that second fight, or the second MMA fight. And up until then, I had only trained, I was a guard jumper, which I always fight for takedowns now. And I would just go straight to playing an open guard and shoot for triangles. And that's what I did. Every match from white all the way to purple. And every match except for that very first tournament, I won by triangle from jumping guard and playing open guard. And so that fight, I took on a 5-day notice, which I had never done. That was dumb. And then I still cut 20-something pounds in 5 days. That was another dumb thing. And then I get there, I didn't feel good at all. And I hadn't been training anything but sport jiu-jitsu. And so I was still jumping guard and all that, not going for takedowns or even really doing a whole lot of striking since the last fight 4 months prior. And so that fight happens, and I remember we start off, I throw a body kick, and it was good. He hit me, that hurt. And then I clinched him, and I started trying to work some knees, and he bent down. I remember him touching my knee. So instead of fighting clinch and keeping clinch like I should have, I had only been training one way, so it was like a jiu-jitsu tournament switch kicked on, and I jumped guard. Well, that was dumb because you can get punched in the face. And I jumped guard, and I got punched in the face a lot, and I got TKO'd that fight. And so ever since then, that was really humbling for me because I had never in any of the fights been beat up like that. I wouldn't ever say I'd been beat up, but it was always a really competitive fight. Like we both beat each other up. And that one I just didn't perform at all. It was like a punching bag. And so one, I learned not to cut that much weight, not to take a short notice fight for me. And then I completely changed the way I train jiu-jitsu. So I only fight for takedowns, and I became a really big top guy now. So my whole guard game, or bottom game, is just to fight for a sweep to get back on top or to stand up. And that was embarrassing for me because I had got my brown belt in jiu-jitsu that morning, and then I got TKO'd on the ground that night in front of all my friends, and especially coming off of a fight like I did. And I think we had done a jiu-jitsu tournament in between. And so that was humbling, and it has changed everything for the way I train all the way to today.
Yeah, and I think I like how that you kept it real, right? You didn't hide that part. A lot of guys would hide the fact that they lost a fight, right? They're not going to want to talk about it. But and I have a lot of respect for you for talking about it, right? But that's the crazy thing about fighting, right? Like you said, you lost in front of your friends and family. It doesn't get more real than fighting. I always tell guys and younger guys that come into the gym is like, when jiu-jitsu is not a fight. Jiu-jitsu competition is not a fight. If you use it in a real street fight, yeah. But in the competition, it's not a fight. You're just going to a tournament, There's still some aspects of combat, right? Like mental, but it's not as much as walking into an octagon. When you're walking into the octagon, I think of it as like two gladiators walking into the Coliseum. That's the way I look at it. And that's the way I train. That's the way I think about it. That's the way I fight, And like you said, it was in front of your friends and family. And I remember a fighting saying it like, you're at your lowest point humility-wise when you lose a fight. You have no shirt on. You're in the middle of the arena, and everybody's watching you. People are booing you. People are cheering you on. People are crying for you, especially if it's your family. And so it doesn't get more real than that, and you can't lie about it. And at the end of the day, there's no other thing that you can do that will remind you that you need to keep sharpening your sword and keep going other than a real fight, because you just got your brown belt. I know how good you are, and you lost in the first round. And that's just part of fighting. And that's what people don't understand these days, is that anyone can lose anywhere at any time. And if everybody truly knew that, then they will not be fighting and running their mouth and peacocking all the time, because they know reality, And me and you talk about this all the time. We know reality because of where we grew up, how we grew up, what we do for work, and because of the way we train and that we actually train. And so we don't look for problems. We actually try to avoid them at all costs. And when they come to us, we still try to get out of them. Instead of the first reaction is peacock or puff my chest out and be Mr. Tough Guy. But we know the reality, even though we're trained, even though that we sharpen the sword every day, that this guy on the street that's 120 pounds that doesn't know how to fight and looks like a crackhead, anything can go wrong. And when you know that, what does that do? That makes you keep sharpening your sword every single day, And so I have a lot of respect for you for talking about that and saying it like it is instead of hiding behind your loss.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave that part out. One part I forgot to say was also my wife now. We were dating at the time, and it was the first time she had ever seen me fight. Mm-hmm. So she had been around me. She had seen me do jiu-jitsu. She's heard people talk about me fighting, heard me talk about me fighting. And then she goes to one, and then that happens. And I was like, crap, she's going to leave me. She's going to think I can't keep her safe. And I had that point in. That was funny.
So how do you recover like after a loss like that? Because like um, fighting, it's you sacrifice a lot when you're getting prepared for fighting, right? So and you have this self image of yourself that you think you're this really tough guy, you can whoop everybody. Like how do you recover after a loss like that? Like your confidence and believing in yourself again after you got uh, beat in a fight.
For me, it was I've never taken time off after a fight. I've always went back to the gym the next day. And so for me, it was to go back to the gym and spar really hard with everybody to to prove to myself that I can still do it. So every good guy, every seasoned fighter that we had at the gym, I wanted to spar with, I wanted to roll with, uh, just to prove to myself that I can still do this and to help build my confidence back up. And I did that for as much as I possibly could for the next few weeks after that.
Action. So take action.
Yes.
You remember one of the things that we did after that
What was it?
when we ate pizza?
Oh, yeah.
So after his fight, we got pizza. It was the next day. I think it was the next day.
I think it was the next day. It was a Sunday.
Yeah, the next day he came over. I work a lot, and so he came over to my store, and I had to order pizzas, and we sat there and we just ate the pizza, and I don't think either one of us ate a lot.
No.
You know, like you usually don't have an appetite after something like that happens, especially if you lose, right? Even if you win, after cutting weight, you don't really have an appetite. And I remember buying these 3 giant pizzas, and we just literally ate like a slice or two, and then we sat there for hours just talking. That's all we did, you know. And that was our way of that was my way of trying to be there for him, and it was just our way of trying to like just work through it, right? In other words, it's just like, hey, this happens, and I remember telling you something like, dude, this is part of the fight game. You know, even though I was still early on and just started fighting, I remember telling you like, put your head up. Don't keep your head down. There's nothing to be ashamed of, right? Because you know they can't. There's a quote that says something along the lines like they cannot build steps strong enough to have a man. What is this quote? Like cowards are not strong enough to walk the steps into the cage. You know, it takes a real man. It takes a real warrior to walk into a cage to fight, because you're not fighting anybody. You're fighting another guy that's trained, another guy that's trying to take you out. You know, you're fighting a guy that's a warrior himself, and so it doesn't get more real than that, and it doesn't get more. In my opinion, you should have pride in it. That you have the courage, you have the pride to actually be able to do it, because so many men talk about it, but I promise you, those men that are talking about it will fold the night of the fight. There's so many times I see men break down in the back room. And I always tell guys, the back room is where it goes down. Forget the cage. When you're there from 4 p.m. and you got to fight at 8 or 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., that's where the fighting happens. Because you see grown men crying, grown men breaking down, grown men wanting to run away. And I remember telling you, hey, lift your head up. There's no point to there's nothing to be ashamed of. Yes, is that the outcome that we wanted? No, it's not. But you did the thing at the end of the day. You got in there and you fought. You know, and as a man, sometimes you gotta understand, this is men and women. But all you gotta understand is as long as you got up and you fought, then that's all you can do. Because the other choice is quitting and folding. Right?
Yeah.
So I remember that, and I still have the pictures. That's the funny thing. I saw the pictures came up in my memories like a few weeks ago. Or you know, even memories like iPhone, you know, shows you like different pictures every day. And I saw them and I was like, man, it flew by. And I was sitting at the store yesterday, and I remember sitting here with him just a few years ago, you know? So time is flying, man, and we've come a long way. You've come a long way. And shortly after that, you got a job maybe working for an electric company here in the city.
Yeah, so I had been working there for a couple years at that point. I had taken a job as an electrician just because company I was working for had me traveling a lot. I didn't want to travel anymore, and this came up, so I just did it just to have a job back home. And that wasn't too long before I had these couple fights, um, and so we'll get into that part. I was working, and I had worked my way up a little bit and been there for a few years, and I was like, all right, this is my life. I got married not too long after that fight, and we had 2 kids at the time, and I just had my third about 7 weeks ago. So that time we had two. Thank you.
Congratulations.
We started saving up, moved, got a house built, and all that. And I was like, all right, we made it. We're comfortable. My wife was out of school, had a decent job. I had a decent job. I was like, this is our life. We're going to do this for the next 40 years and retire. And we had rented, right before our house was finished being built, we rented a water slide for my daughter's like 9th birthday, my oldest. And I remember paying, it was like $360. I was like, dang. And I was like, I'm just going to buy some of these when we move. And we were in an apartment at the time, so we just had it at my dad's house. And that's what I was thinking about. I was like, as soon as we move, I'm going to buy a couple. And we moved, and I bought one. And then my wife wanted to buy a really big one. I was like, man. So we bought that one, and she said, you should try to rent it out, put it on Facebook, and see if anybody rents it. And that's where my journey of working for myself started. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try that. And I posted it, and talked to some people I knew, started getting rented out a lot. Excuse me. So that first weekend that I had both of them and I rented them out, I made more money on a Saturday than I did 40 hours a week as a journeyman electrician. And I was like, crap. I was like, there's something to this. I was like, I knew that was a seasonal thing, but it had me thinking. I was like, we got to figure something out, because if I can work one day and make this much money, why am I working 5 days to make this much money? And we did that all summer. And then when it started slowing down, I'd been trying to figure out what else I could do. Mo had been telling me for years to work for myself. I just never knew what. Years. I mean, probably 10 years. Before only thing I'd done was work at a grocery store. And so we kept, lost my train of thought. So we figured out what we wanted to do next. I started seeing people renting dumpsters. And we were saving up because we were going to buy a new family vehicle. It was going to be, my wife wanted one of the new 4Runners with 3 rows. And so we were saving, and that's what we were going to buy. And then I had this dumpster idea. I was like, well, I'm going to start renting these dumpsters out. The truck I had at the time couldn't pull it. So I told my wife, I was like, if we do this, we got to use your 4Runner money and go buy a bigger truck. And she was like, okay, do it. So she's awesome. And so we did it, and I bought that, and I started renting it out. As soon as I got it, it was rented out for like 6 weeks straight. I was like, holy cow. I was like, I need to go buy a second one. And I had a partner in this, that we were doing this together. And so we got a second one, and it started doing the same thing. Well, we had ran 2 dumpsters, and I still had my full-time job, but I was doing this all fall, winter, and then beginning of spring. And it just kept building and building and building. And we started getting bigger jobs and ventured into demo work and demoed some big barns and stuff. And then so by the next year, April was coming up, and I knew our inflatables, we had got up to 5 at the end of our first year, was going to start back. And I was really worried about losing business in one or the other, because I knew inflatables would take so much time. Our waste management company was taking so much time. And So I was like, I need to quit my job. And I'm not a risk taker at all. I know it sounds weird if you say you fight, but I'm not a risk taker. Because I was like financially, I was like, we just built a house. We have 2 kids, all this stuff. We're comfortable. Um, and my wife kept telling me, she's awesome. I'm going to say that a lot. She kept pushing me. She was like, you just need to suck it up, stop being a sissy, and you need to quit and do this. She was like, at least then try it. If it doesn't work in a year, go back to work. She was like, what's the harm? And so she told me she would, and at first this made me feel like lesser of a man because I could, the capability of not being able to provide financially as I could at the time and having to rely more on my wife. And so she was like, I'll pick up an extra shift if you need me to, so we can get this going when you have slow work. And so we did that and I quit. I remember quitting, and I remember my first job I got was 2 days, and I was able to say it because it went totally different after this. I made enough that I was make my pay for the month. I was like, man, I'm fixing to be rich. If I do this every week, one day every week, I'm going to be rich. And I never had another week like that.
So you were doing dumpsters and inflatable at this time.
Yeah, so the inflatables were just fixing to pick back up. And we had a lot of ideas on where to take that, go like bigger into party rentals and everything. And a lot of those are still coming down. We've just backtracked on growing it when we were working on growing the other one. And so I did inflatables and dumpsters full time, all the way up until the end of that year. So end of fall, beginning of winter, the obviously nobody wants water slides when it's cold, so they died off, and then the waste management stuff died down. And so I'd been doing this for about like 8, 9 months at the time, full time for myself. And the waste management died down. I was like, what do I do? Like, I didn't know what to do. I started to panic. Um, my oldest daughter, she goes to work with me a lot. She cleans. She gets paid, but I have her clean all the inflatables. She goes sets them up. Some of them have ball pits, and there's like 2,000 balls. So I make her pick them all up on the rentals, and she gets paid for it. But it's like a chore for her. I want her to learn, to work as she's growing up, and that's part of her chores and what she does. And so when we do dumpsters, she'll haul with me during the summertime. She'll go drop them off. We did a few jobs where it was eviction clean outs, and we had to clean them out, and she would do that stuff with me. And so she got to learn how to work really hard at 11, 12 years old. And she told me she looked up to me as the fact that I was working for myself. So she took a lot of pride in that. And the one thing that got that for me was she said she was at school and she was talking to her friends and telling her how her dad's her own boss. And I was like, holy crap. So that always replays in my head, and that's a big driving factor for me. I had to say that so this part made sense. So when it got hard, obviously my first thought was like, I need to go back to work and get a job. And then, that came in. I was like, what example would I be setting if I quit the first obstacle that comes up? The first time things get hard and it's not just going great. And so I was like, I'm going to look for a part-time job at night, and I'm going to be free during the day to where I can do all of our stuff, because I knew after the holidays and once springtime started back up, everything would be fine. And so I was like, put in applications at Amazon, Home Depot, like anything for a night part-time job just to pay the bills. So we didn't go through what we had put up. And I got a call from a guy I thought was my friend at the time.
Don't get me started.
who has started an electric company, and he wanted some help. He was like, I got a lot of work, I need some help. And I was like, cool, this is so I went and met with him and talked to him, and we agreed on a price. I was like, I can work for you from this time to this time as long as I don't have any dumpsters to drop off. And so again, he was one of my journeymen that helped train me up when I was an apprentice at the company I worked for. And so I thought I could trust him. And so that happened. And, I started helping him on his jobs. Well, not that I'm the most experienced in business, but I knew a little bit from doing it for a couple years at the time. And then, about 10 months full time for myself. And he had just started. And so I was like, well, let me help you with some of these issues that you're having. And I took care of them. And he was like, man, how'd you learn this? And I was like, just doing it in Mo. Mo still teaches me a lot. And so he wanted me to take over more of that side of the business, and then just not so much as tools in my hand putting in work. And so we came up with an agreement. He was going to make me a partner for 20% of the company. It was a brand new company, so it wasn't worth anything. It was just a dream of what we could build it. And put myself on a very small salary, like a minimum of what I need to pay my bills. And so we did that, and we grew a lot for being small. We got this big 40-something unit apartment complex we're remodeling. I hired 2 guys and those 2 guys could put the whole thing in, and I just managed it. And then we started getting jobs coming in from other relationships. And again, I trusted this guy, so I never had it put down on paper. I took a handshake, and that was a mistake. I learned my lesson. So after everything started going good, it was like 2 or 3 days after Christmas, right after Christmas. And so he calls me up, and he was like, hey, we're going to move on without you. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, I just don't see your value anymore.
Wow.
And yeah.
I remember that like the back of my hand.
It was.
I remember talking to you when you came to the gym after.
Yeah, it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so I came to the gym right after that. And so I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to. I knew how I wanted to handle it, but I knew I couldn't handle it that way. And so I didn't. I just said, okay, learned my lesson, and then tried to pivot and see where I needed to go next. So I knew how to do electric work, and I had been, helped him grow that business. So I was going to start my own. So I started my own electric company, and there was one investor that I had a job scheduled for that Friday, and I had got laid off that Wednesday, pushed out of that company. And so I had to immediately start calling up people to disassociate my name with that company. Because again, I was bringing in a lot of relationships and trying to develop some for that company. So I wanted to break ties. So of course they didn't get any business that I was trying to work on. So I called that guy and told him what had happened. I said, but look, I can do your job for you. And he was like, okay. And so I went and I did it. And I was like, okay. So that was, I had savings put up, but I don't like touching that because it goes so quick. And so at that point I was like, I made my paycheck that week. And then, I was praying and trying to see how to get, how to keep going and get more work. And then because down by myself, I knew a lot of the bigger jobs that I was trying to go after without all the extra labor to provide, I couldn't do them myself. So I had to start trying to pivot and really trying to get smaller jobs. And the next week, I got another call from same thing, somebody buying a house and needed some work done, and made my paycheck that week. And then it's compounded from there. I say I met that guy I'm in a business group called Gio and I, and that has extremely grew my company. And for the first like 4 or 5 months, That was where all my work came from. And so I started mine first New Year's, day after New Year's was when my electric company became official. And we just started getting little jobs that would get us by. And and we grew, and I started still continuing networking and trying to work on relationships, talking to Mo. He keeps me motivated a lot. And and then my wife was pushing me because she was like, you can't go back to work. Just figure out what to do and just do it. Suck it up. Don't be a sissy and do it. And that's what she says to me when at those times. I didn't have as much confidence as I do now when it comes to this because for me it was so risky being like, part of our income as a family coming from me. And so I was like, I need to, do this. And she was just like, don't be a sissy, keep going. And so I did. And I kept going to that business group called BNI. And then in uh, May I had met this guy. Or I'll backtrack because I got ahead of myself. I get excited. And so that investor, I won't say I will. His name's Jonathan. And he also owns Tigertown Pest Solutions. They're awesome. But he kept feeding me houses. He flips a lot of houses, and he kept feeding me houses to flip for him. And it kept me busy to where I didn't have to seek out a ton of work. So when I was getting little jobs, it was extra. And I kept doing all these flips. And then in May, I met this one guy who owns a construction company. He owns a construction company, also owns a big electrical company. But his electric company had grown so big, he can't pull his electricians from his bigger commercial jobs to do all his residential insurance work. And so that became one of the most valued relationships for me growing that I had back in May. And I met him, and I sat down and had a meeting with him, and then they just slammed me with work, like more than I could ever think that I would have. And then on top of that, he kept sending my name out to a lot of other companies, and I started getting the same type of jobs from him. And we were talking about this before we came here. I got so backed up, or not really backed up, but just I kept taking on work, and I didn't want to lose any because there's always ups and downs. And so I knew I wanted to get as much work and make as much money because I didn't know what the winter would be again. And so I did, and I got to where I was, I'd start work at 6:30 in the morning. I'd cut out lifting. I was going to the gym at 6:30 in the morning and lifting, starting working around 8:30. I'd cut that out so I could get to work at first thing in the morning. After I dropped my son off at daycare and my daughter at school. And I'd go straight to work, and then we would work all day, and then I'd go to class, and I'd teach jiu-jitsu, or I'd teach kids kickboxing, and then after that, I'd go back to work at 8 o'clock at night, and I'd work till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I was doing this 3-4 times a week for 2 or 3 months to finish everything, and I literally finished everything 2 weeks ago. And
wow, congrats.
Mo pushes me a lot through that. It was, at first I was getting overwhelming with so much coming in. I just started having to turn so much work down, which is a huge blessing for me because I would have never thought it would have grown that fast, that much, that quickly. If that's the way you say it, I don't know.
Yeah, we're not. What did we say last time? We're jiu-jitsu guys.
Yeah, that's it.
We're not on the grammar side, all right? Jiu-jitsu and business, that's it.
That's awesome, Coach. And I see God has blessed you a lot, right? But within your stories, I see that there's one big thing that highlights, and that's your ability to create relationships, your ability to network, And I think a lot of business owners and a lot of people starting off, it's a lot of majority of the population is introverted, right? So they don't want to do the socializing. They don't want to get to know people because it's exhausting or whatever. They're like, I don't really want to know people. How does knowing this person even benefit me, or just step out of their comfort zone? And so that's a skill set that I see you have. And so, to all the business owners and to all the people that are starting off, like, how important is networking?
I think it's the most important thing outside of doing your job well. Um, because when you're first starting off, you obviously, unless you have tons of capital to start off with, you want to keep your overhead down, and marketing's expensive, and good marketing's really expensive. And so networking's your best tool. And there's a lot of groups out there like that. Just going and meeting people, and then I always try to get somebody to go out to lunch with me and talk to them, just so I can get to know them. If you don't have a personal relationship with these people and they don't really know you, they're not going to think about you when a job comes up. And so I had a lot of free time during that point when I was just getting one or two jobs a week, or smaller jobs leading up until I met those people from the different construction companies. And so just try to go meet everybody. And that meeting, it's a small investment. It's $1,000 a year, and you meet once a week. And for me, not only did I just, I met a lot of people, and it's given me these relationships that's really grown my company, but I also learned a lot, because there's like close to 40 other people in my chapter. They're all successful business owners. And then I was like, and then it's me. I joined that 2 days after I quit my job. I was like, I'm just unemployed, and I pick up trash and rent out bounce houses. So I didn't know anything about any of this. I was scared to death on this to do the podcast. I was really nervous. And so I'm really shy, so to speak, and I'm not good at speaking in front of people. And part of what you got to do there is you got to speak in front of people. You got to do a 10-minute presentation in front of everybody. I don't know how to do a PowerPoint. I had my daughter, my oldest, teach me how to use PowerPoint that first time when I had to make one, so I could do it. And that scared me to death, because I was like, man, 10 minutes speaking in front of, close to 40 successful business owners was very intimidating to me. I almost felt like imposter syndrome, like I wasn't supposed to be in that room. But it's completely different. Generally, everybody's an awesome person. Every there, and every other one I've met, I've never gotten a sense of like they're looking down on me or anything, for at that time just being small and trying to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so join like chapters, join like masterminds. We could be with around these people. So social, you got to go out there and network. But what are like things, like points that you want to hit when you want to network, right? Because you don't just want to go take a business owner out to lunch and just talk about the football game, right?
Yeah.
Or like, what is your goal when you network? Do you want to get them to like you? Because now once they like you, they most likely recommend you. Or what is your goal with networking?
For me, and I had it explained to me this way, and I like it. I like to get to know somebody, because if I'm referring somebody for a job, and that's say it's one of my family members or one of my friends, I like to know that person personally, and I like to know their morals. Like, I don't want them to try and refer somebody and then my mom get ripped off by this guy, or they do a bad job or something. So I try to take that same approach, and I try to let somebody get to know me on a personal level. And then, we get into work, and I can show them my jobs and what I've done and everything. And a lot of times it takes more than just an hour. Like, you're not going to go eat barbecue, have a barbecue sandwich, and sit down for an hour where you're eating for 20 minutes of it. And then they'll automatically start giving you $300,000 jobs and referring you to everybody they know. It takes time to build a relationship and to build trust up, but it's just being consistent. Consistency is the key, and to keep doing it. And then when you have those relationships, to, keep investing in them so you can keep growing. Because generally, what I've learned is when I'll get given little jobs and then they gradually get bigger as the trust has gotten bigger.
100%. And so, with that, it's like, because I feel like a lot of people become impatient when it comes to building relationships or like networking, because everybody wants to see quick results.
Yeah.
2023, instant gratification. Every food is instant. Everything is instant. How big is that? Like, I think a lot of people like they'll have one interaction and they're like, oh, I guess networking ain't for me. I haven't get anything about that. Like, how important is that being consistent and giving it time to flourish?
It's really the most important thing, because if you're not consistent and you go, so for an example, so I didn't get any work from this group for 8 months. So I invested this money. I went every week, for an hour and a half every week, and talked to these people. Was going out to lunch every week with somebody, and it took me 8 months before I started getting work. And the first guy to give me work was that investor. And then that relationship I built with him, he then went back, because I'm going to say, people, if you're flipping houses and you're doing all this work and then people, so then people are going to trust your opinion. And, excuse me. And so he started letting the people know, and really, I would say, marketing for me, telling people how good of a job I did. So then they trusted me a little more. So then they would give me stuff, and everything just compounds off of that. So if you're not going to invest in anything and like continue to invest in these relationships, some may never play out, but it's also not what they do, but it's like who they know. So you may meet this guy, I may meet a dentist, and so it's not necessarily what they do, but they may know 10 people. Everybody has electricity, needs it in their house, and I may get 10 jobs from their family members that year, just because I met that one person, or I meet this one insurance salesman, and the same thing. There's obviously key people you always want to meet, and you want to thrive to meet those people, but you can't ever count anybody out, because everybody knows people and every relationship counts.
Yeah. So I remember when I was first starting off working, I always thought it was what you know. Like, what do I know, right? And in business, it is what you know. A lot of it, right? You have to know some things. You can't be a sack of rocks, right? But there is a saying: it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you take that to its highest level and actually use it and put your ego aside, because business owners sometimes tend to know it all and have a little ego, and especially the ones that got money, so they think they know it all. But it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so the more people that you know, the more opportunities that you can make to make money. And you have to have that mindset of opportunities. People are opportunities. To the normal person, it sounds bad, but people are opportunities. There's an opportunity for something, right? If you're looking for a relationship, you're looking for a guy that's a respectful guy. You're looking for a girl, you're looking for a respectful girl. In business, you're looking for somebody that can offer you business, that can offer you clients. So people, and this is specifically business, but like I said, it translates everywhere, is people are opportunities. You have to look at them as opportunities, and people are going to use it in different contexts. I'm not talking to you guys. I want to look at everything bad, but in business, you have to see everybody as an opportunity and everybody as a client. And if they are not the client, then they have a client for you. But if you don't see the opportunity first or look for the opportunity, then you'll never see it, right? Because you might see somebody, right? And like, hey, whatever, I'm just talking to this blank face. I'm talking to Jimmy. Well, Jimmy, if you talk to him and you truly are invested in looking for an opportunity, then you can get that opportunity from him. So first of all, you have to kind of like almost foresee an opportunity, create an opportunity. I was somewhere a few weeks ago, and we were just sitting in a setting. A lot of guys were there, and we were just talking. You know, we're just making small chat. And um, one thing led to the next. What are you doing? They knew what I'm doing, you know, what it has to offer and does it really help and this and that. And I made a sale. And I wasn't there to make a sale. You know what I'm saying? But I made a sale. And I told guys that our
ABC.
business, ABC, you know, Gio beat me to it. I told guys, ABC, always be closing, you know? And when you work for yourself, is you have to do that 24/7. You can't turn that switch off. And if you do, either you have a lot of money, your business is very successful, or you're on the other end where you're getting lazy, which is going to lead you to lose your business, you know? So opportunities and networking is one of the most important things that you need as a business, right? Networking is like you can look at it as like an oxygen line to your business. You know, if you cut it off, then your business dies. If you put more, your business thrives. So networking is very important, and I'm glad to see that you're finally networking and you're on this podcast, you know, but it's especially knowing you're very introverted, very quiet. But I want to kind of backtrack and go talk about pretty much your whole story. So we know your whole story, and I kind of want to unravel it, right? And I want to pick it apart because I always get so excited. And I get so excited listening to people that went from 9 to 5 and finally are doing it for themselves. Because I'm not the 9 to 5 guy. I never will be. You know, I will go back to the street and sell $20 shoes until the day I die before I go back to 9 to 5. And so when I see somebody that went from a 9 to 5, you know, 40-hour work week to 120, 130, 140-hour work weeks, then I'm like, man, I have so much respect for you, and I want to hear your story, and I want to talk about it. And it gets me so freaking excited, right? Because there's so much that goes into it. People think it's like, man, DC Electrical, you got a nice shirt, you know, you got your company hats now, and people look at you and they're like, man, you've made it. You know, you're rich. You know, and it's like, bro, only if you know. Only if you know. And that's a never-ending process until you get your company, you know, 5-10 years later, built strong. You know, so I want to start with because this is a very big one for me, is family, right? And the support of your wife. You know, and the cool thing is the support of your daughter, your oldest daughter. I mean, your two youngest are eventually going to go down that path as long as you're on that path, right? And I want to start with the kids first because I remember working as a kid, right? And I like that you're getting them started early on because I feel like you're teaching them. They're going to learn so many life lessons early on. They're going to build fortitude. They're going to build gratitude. They're going to build mental strength. They're going to get mentally sharper. They're going to get physically sharper. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that at a young age, those kids grow up a different way. And those kids appreciate the things that you do for them a different way. And those kids are going to appreciate what they have a different way. Because when she has to go out there and clean that slide, she has to work. So when she works and she gets paid $10 or $5, whatever it is, and then she goes to buy something with that, even if it's a bag of candy, it means the world to her. You know, she may not say it yet. She may not say it. Sometimes she probably does. But at the end of the day, when she does that, it's a very fulfilling feeling. And it's just like you when you go work a hard week and then you go buy a gift for yourself, or you buy a nice gift for your wife, or you take your wife out to dinner. And it's because you went through the process and the grueling hours from 4 to 1, 4 to 2 in the morning, almost a 24-hour workday, you know? And so when you go out at the end of the week or at the end of the month for that, or you do something special, just order food and sit on the couch with your wife and kids and watch a movie after all of that, it's one of the most rewarding things that you can do, you know? So for me, it was so cool listening to you talk about your daughter working with you. And I remember when you told me she would ride in the truck with me and she would tell me this and she would make these plans. And I'm like, dude, that's the coolest thing in the world. You know, for me, that's like one of the coolest things to hear, you know? And so I'm glad that you're doing that for your kids. You know, some people will look like, I'm not going to make my kids work. Well, I'm sorry. Wait until they're 16, 17, 18, yeah. And then let me know what you think about those kids. You know, they're going to be brats. And so right now, it's like a lesson that they probably don't see, and even you probably don't see it to its fullest yet, you know? But in 3 or 4 years when she's a little bit older, and she's part of the company, or she wants to work for the company. She doesn't want to work for nobody else. She wants to work for our company, my family company. I want to build this company. I have pride in this company. Then she's going to carry herself different. You know what I'm saying? She's going to be ahead of the normal people.
And that's how she is now. She has no interest doing electric work, but I've still been teaching her. We've been adding a room on at our house, finishing up a bonus room, and so I had my 4-year-old son. I was helping him drill holes, and then I had my daughter pulling wire. She was like, I want outlet here, 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 and I want a light here and here. I was like, all right, well, you got to pull the wire there.
Yeah.
And so me and my son would drill all the holes, and she would pull all the wire. And I was like, well, you want this room to look like this for you, so you're going to put in work to help do it. And to backtrack, I left out about all the plans. So she has a lot of plans for a party rental business, and a lot of those plans I'm trying to make happen. I really want to make happen for her because that's what she wants to do for a living. That's what she wants to do. So I want her to have that option to where like she never has to work for somebody. If I can put all the work in now and have a base that she could build off of, whether it be in any of them or all of them. She wants to do something a part of all of them. And so I want those plans that she has. Like she wants us to get a building and then get separate inflatables and do one of those so we can have birthday parties there. She was like, then during the winter time, we can still make money and it not just be during the summer. And I'm like, dang, you're 10 years. At the time, she was 10 years old when she was thinking like this. And I was like, it was blowing me away when she was always trying to think about making money on the off time. And so one of my biggest things with like school nowadays is they don't teach you about anything about business. They don't teach you about money. They don't teach you about how to invest in real estate. They don't teach you none of that. And I've only been really diving into it for about 3 years now. Mm-hmm. And I graduated from Christian Brothers, and I still didn't really learn a lot about this stuff. And so I knew she wasn't going to learn. So as me and my wife learn and grow in this area of our life, we're trying to go ahead and talk to her. Try to talk to my 4-year-old a little bit about it now too, but I want them to grow and learn all the options that they can do, and not just you got to go to college even though you don't know what you want to do and get foreign debt, or just get a job, work it for the next 50 years, and retire.
Right. That's crazy that you see her wheels turning now, and I think that's, like I said, that's one of the most important things for them, and they don't see it, but growing up in the company and running her own company and coming up with these ideas at a young age, she's going to be ahead of the curve here in a few years, and at the end of the day, it's, her working hard is going to make her a stronger person. It's going to make her of more value, and she's going to seize that for herself. Some people go work for somebody and they automatically don't feel good because that person is a jerk, that person's a whatever you want to put, and they feel like they have to work there because they need a paycheck. The good thing about, and if you're a 9 to 5, you're a 40-hour work week, that's fine, guys. Like, this is just our mindset, right? This is the self-employed business owner mindset, and it's a mindset that not anybody can handle. It's a mindset that not everybody can have, even if they wanted it. Because so many things go into it. So it's the kids. Thank God your kids are on board with it, and they love it and they support you. But the other one is your wife,
It does not work if your spouse is not on board.
And that's the hardest one, I think, that people fall in, right? Because you see these days, especially like younger people, they're like, I'm going to I want to open a business. I want to do this. I want to do that. Or you hear ladies, and I hope one day when I have my family, mine's on board all the way, and I know I have to take off the gas a little bit to make it work. I can't keep doing what I'm doing now. But is so many times I've seen, I support him. And then there's 2-3 weeks of 100, 120 hours, 130 hours. And then they notice that that's a reoccurring thing, because in business that is. And when you're starting a business, you don't have the luxury of working, from 5 to 5, or 9 to 5, or 9 to 7, or 7 to 7, 7 to 5. You don't have that luxury when you're starting off. When you're starting off, you have to work as much as you can to get it off the ground and to make it succeed. So to see that your wife isn't just, hey, go for it. That's so cool to hear. And I remember every time we talk, you'll tell me that. And especially when it got tough and you told me she was still on board. And a lot of times that guys don't understand is that they need to be careful when they're in business, because if they don't have that person, then their business is going to be gone.
Yeah, and it was tricky for, say our situation, because when we got married, this wasn't anything we ever thought about. Like, I was just, commercial electrician on the job site, 6 to 2:30, 6 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, every now and then work Saturday, and that was my life. And we were already, 2 years into our marriage when all this begun. And for her to support me so much, especially because what a lot of people, they don't know is like, man, it takes a while to make money.
A long time.
It takes a while to make money. Because we had to cut our life, I don't say lifestyle, but how much I made versus how much I pay myself down when we were first going for the first year and a half, and up until recently. And so, it changed our whole household income, how we lived life, what we did, and everything like that. So we took out not as extravagant vacations, and maybe a little shorter, but just to keep as much money in the company as possible, to where we could keep growing. And if something came up, we were able to take care of that. And like for me, like if I go after bigger jobs, some jobs are, they pay out 15 days or 30 days, or I had one that pays out 60 days. And so I have to, front all this money for material and labor. And then I finish the job, say it takes a month, and then I don't get paid for it for 30 to 60 days. So I can't pay myself everything I make in my trade necessarily, and just ball out, because then I won't have any money to when I have an opportunity like that come up.
Right.
So you got to have a lot of self-control too. And you talk about discipline. Like, it's easy when you have a couple good months to be like, man, I'm going to take this week off. I'm going to take another week off. And you're not worried about it. But then you turn down those jobs where then you want to start working again, and then there's nothing really to be done.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, getting from all of that, right, is people see you running your own business. People see you working your own schedule. And there's always those slick comments. It must be nice. You got it easy. It's so cool you work for your own company. And all they see is like sunshine, rainbows, flowers, you know what I'm saying? Like all this nice stuff. That's all they see when they think about, oh, Donovan, DC Electrical, like, or whoever they want to put is like, that's amazing. And they think it's like this success of a new business or self-employed is going up like this. But the reality, it's like this, and then it goes underground. Like it goes from here, it goes underground, and it comes up a little bit, and it dives straight down, head first, straight to the ground. And then you start seeing a little bit of success, and you're like, oh, I'm here. You get lazy, you take off the gas pedal. You know what I'm saying? You get excited, you make a little bit of money, and then right back down, and then it's up again, it's back down, and it's up and down. And this is a nonstop process. You know what I'm saying? Up and down for years. And then finally you'll start coasting. And then finally you hit just a little bit of elevation. And that little bit of elevation, you have to try to keep it there. And then when you can keep it there, it's called compounding pounding. You know what I'm saying? Things start compounding if you keep it on the gas pedal. And if you keep it, and Gio and I had a meeting yesterday and we talked about this, if you take off the gas pedal, right? You have to reset the process. So if you have a successful month, a successful quarter, and you take off the gas pedal, then the car slows down until a complete stop. And then you have to accelerate the car back up to 70 miles per hour. But if you keep it at 70 miles, miles per hour, then it doesn't take as much energy to hit the gas a little bit more. Instead of going all the way back, restarting and starting back up. So that's the process, and it's a very, very, very hard process, but it starts with support, and luckily for you, your wife is there to support you, and I try to support you as much as possible, and I try to have my phone open and my ears open as much as possible for you, but at the end of the day, and this is one of the things that I learned early on, and I had to do it for myself, is if nobody's there to support you, you have to do it for yourself, and that's the hardest part of business, is being there and being real with yourself and reminding yourself why you're doing it and reminding yourself that you have to keep doing it.
Because there's no accountability except you.
That's it.
It's not like, you say you go to a job, you have bosses, you have stuff, you have other people that are going to keep you accountable if you don't do X, Y, and Z. When you're in business for yourself, especially when you don't have any of that. Like me, I don't have any. It's just me. I don't have any helpers. I have some guys that I use part-time when I have bigger projects going on, but I don't have any full-time helpers. And so if I slack off, nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it but me. But I can't do that because as he talked about, there's always ups and downs and ups and downs. And so slacking off is really a dangerous game. And you always talk about tipping the scale. For me, I think it's, again, I go back to my wife because she supports me so much in this whole thing, that it's easy for me to tip the scale and work those longer weeks and longer days, because I know what my goal is for. So I know it's so that my kids have an option to work for a family business versus just going to school. That, they may have a little more resources if they want to start something on their own. They've already learned how to manage a business. They've already learned more about finances and everything else, that they want to take a completely different path. And I'm able to support them in that. And then also one of my biggest goals, because my wife has always supported us through these past couple years financially, is that, hopefully, Lord willing, things keep going the way they're going, and she'll be quit next year and just get to be a stay-at-home mom. And so that's one of my biggest goals, is because, we just had our third baby, and Lord willing, another year or two, we'll have one more.
God willing.
And so that was a criteria. She has to stay at home before we have more kids. And so that's our next goal, is getting towards that. And that would have never been possible for me in what I do if I never would have broke out and did it on my own. So it was like a pay cut at first, but then, and it's, hard work and everything pays off, and you just got to keep going. Sometimes it's longer than others, and but it does pay off, and it's different. Even if you're not making as much money, even when I first started and there was weeks I couldn't pay myself, I still felt good. I still felt good about, okay, well, I made enough to cover overhead for this month. And I paid myself for 2 weeks this month. And then when it got to where you're able to do that every week, well, now you and solely you are providing income for your family that you've created all on your own. So that's big for me.
And I'm glad you brought that off about the wife, staying at home and taking care of the kids and family. So I'm a Muslim, you're a Christian. We're both born and raised in the South, but we even though we have different religions, we still are like almost exactly. I mean, it was crazy, like how we met in the church training, and now we're both on our business path, right? And it's almost crazy how we almost believe exactly the same stuff. And And so I think that's what makes us kind of even have a closer relationship. Because I always tell people, like, you're my good friend, but you're my brother, right? Um, and you hit the nail on the head when you said your wife is you paying her back is her staying at home. And you're I guess they call it traditionalist, right? The traditional ways that, stay at home wife, the husband's taking care of the family, they're providing for the family and being there. And the wife is teaching the kids and raising the family. And you guys are raising the family, right? It's not somebody else raising the family. And this is not against people that have daycares and all that. But this is how it was back in the day here in America. You're gonna have a farm that you're gonna eventually build on, and you're gonna have animals and that's the way, right? That's the traditional way. So I get excited talking about this.
Yeah.
I got my John Dutton ranch hat on right now, so I'm getting excited thinking about one day living on the ranch, doing all this. But a lot of people, like I said earlier, especially women, is they think it's all beautiful, right? He's a business owner. He's a self-employed guy. He works for himself. And then this guy's working 100, 200 hours, 100, 150, 140 hours, whatever hours a week, not 40 hours. And then at first, for the first month, it's cool. For the first 3 months, it's cool. For the 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, it's cool. But when it's going for 2, 3, 4 years, and now you're at 3 years, you're doing this for 3 years, but she's still there to support you. And in my opinion, when it comes to you, that's why you're still going, right? And this is not only for wives. This is for your brothers, your family, whoever's your support system. They need to be able to support you. And a lot of people can't keep supporting you in a self-employment thing or a business owner because it's so hard. You don't get to see me every night. You know what I'm saying? She don't get to see you every night.
That is one thing that helps is even, and I left that out. So going back to her supporting me, even when I would work till 12 o'clock, generally all my work is in Shelby County or in parts of Mississippi that I don't live in. So it's usually always around 45 minutes to an hour drive back home. And so I'd get home at, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and she'd wake up. She'd, have supper ready for me generally all the time, even being at home with the kids by herself. And she'd wake up and she'd talk to me while I ate, and then we go to bed. So every time, even though she had to get up and go to work the next morning at, 7 o'clock, she would still wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning to sit up and talk with me for like 30 minutes while I eat supper. And then we'd go back to bed.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's one of the coolest things that I can hear. Like I said, I don't have my own family yet, but I hope one day that it's the same thing because I know that's the hardest thing, especially for a wife, right? Or like a mom to your kids also, is that not seeing you. That's the hardest thing. That's the bit when I talk to people, and I don't have that experience yet, right? But that's the biggest thing that I always get. When I talk to business owners, that's what the biggest tip they gave me is, hey, don't rush. Make sure you have the right people, or that right person. Because if you don't have that, then it's a possibility to kill your business, and people don't like to hear that. But that's the truth. That's it's as raw as it can get, right? Because I know you've felt it already in the last 3 years, and I've felt it, like there's some days I don't want to work. I just want to quit.
Yeah.
I just want to stop. That's it. It's this, screw all this, man. And let me just work. Let me just be average. Because how hard it is. So imagine them when they don't get to see you. So that's the coolest thing that she's there to support you. And like I said, I think that's why of course, what you know and what you're doing, the hard work you're doing, but she's there to support you. And that's why you're successful. And success doesn't mean money. People think it means you have to have millions. Success means that you guys are on the same page. Success means you're doing what you like. Success means that you can participate in your kids' activities. Success means that you have freedom.
And that's in it for me. Like the money aspect isn't a big deal to me. I can buy a few guns a year and we can just have a good life. Like yeah. I don't have to have anything fancy. None of us do. Yeah, that's what we spend our money on.
2A, baby.
And so all I ever set out with this my whole goal is so that she can stay at home, and then I'm able to work my schedule around to where I never miss a school event. Uh, my daughter's been doing Thai for a year and a half now. I get to teach her Thai class. Would have never been able to get off work and get her there on time to be able to teach that class if I could even get her there. And so that's a big thing for me is I don't miss anything. I don't have to miss anything. If I got to go back to work and work till midnight that night for a few hours, it's not a big deal to make up for it because I get to do all that during the day.
Yeah.
Like she was just on fall break. She had a 2-week fall break because I think it's called like year-round schooling where we live. And so we were able to get up, even though it was too warm and we didn't see anything. And my daughter wanted to start hunting, so we would get up every morning and go hunt. And so I didn't go into work till like 10 o'clock. I'd work later at night after class, but we were able to do that every morning while she was off school. If I didn't work for myself, I would never have that. And that's ultimately what, for me being successful is that, I'll be able to provide and we'll just be able to, I don't have to miss anything.
And that's what it always goes back for me, right? Is you have to ultimately pay the price now.
Yeah.
Right? And a few years in it, now you're seeing some of the fruits from it, right? But you have to pay the price now. And if you don't pay the price now, then you're not going to be able to do that. And that's the beauty of owning a business. It sucks at first. It does. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of the worst things, in my opinion. I don't care. I mean, unless you inherit a business or you a big time investor, you may not have to be hands-on, so you have freedom. But the point is you're paying this price up front so you have the freedom later. And like I said, you're a traditional man, and your wife is on the same page as you, and both you knowing and she has the same vision as you, and now you're working all these hours, but here in a year or so, then that freedom is going to be so much bigger because she's going to be at home. She's going to be with the kids all the time. You're going to see her more, but you're ultimately paying the price now. And the price that you're paying now is going to be so much more worth it here in a few years when you're at all your kids' events, at their school events, their sports events. You're training your daughter. You're teaching what you like. You're seeing your wife. You're doing this. You're doing whatever you want. And that's why I do it, right? I don't care for the money. I don't care for the money. Because the truth is, when it comes to money, you hit a certain number, and that's more than enough for you. It depends unless you like Lamborghinis and Ferraris and you want to have all this. I don't care for that, right? So money is not success. And I learned that the last few years. Money is not success. It is a factor that determines if you were successful.
Necessary.
Yeah, it's necessary. You need to have it, right? But people think that a certain number means success. Success for somebody might be making $10,000 a month. That might be the most successful thing for them. Success for somebody might be making $10,000 a month and from their own work and having the freedom to be at all their kids' events, compared to the guy that making $10,000 a month, working a corporate job and is out of town all the time, that's missing kids' events. Because the guy that's working for himself making $10,000 a month might be, hey, I have a kids' event right now at 2 p.m. this afternoon. I'm not stuck on my desk. Guess what? I'm going to drop what I have, call one of my guys, take care of it, and I'm going to see my kids. For me, that's what success is.
Yep.
That's freedom. And for me, ultimately, I want that freedom. If I sat at a desk 9 to 5, I would go crazy. I would lose my mind. And then my kid has something going on, or my family has something going on, or you have something going on, and I can't be there for you guys, then it will drive me nuts. So having a support system is one of the most important things that you can have running a business and owning a business or starting a business. If you don't have the right people around you, then it can be your downfall, And so big tip for everybody is make sure you have the right people around you and make sure they're supporting you and not making slick comments. If they're making slick comments and making smart comments, they usually mean them. People say like they're a joke. They're not a joke. People mean them. And that's what I learned early on. And if you don't mind me, I'm going to talk about that guy. I'm not going to say his name, but the guy that you went in partnership with, and he He was a POS, right? Is growing up, that's happened a few times, right? So I learned who the real people are around me, right? I thought I had friends early on. The truth is, everybody calls everybody friends. That's a word that people just throw around. A friend is somebody that's there for you when it's hard, not when it's good times. People say they're friends because they're getting supported by this person, but it's going good for you. Everything's going good for both of you. So, of course, they're going to support you.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when it's going good for you and bad for them? Or it's going bad for both of you? The support is not there. And people think they have friends, but they don't realize that those people are there. I have this saying, I act like we're on the dinner table and everybody has a plate of food. But those guys are not happy with their plate. They're looking at your plate. They want to eat out of your plate. And you've probably heard me say this before, but those guys want to eat out of your plate. They're looking at your plate like it's the best thing in the world, but they have the same thing on their plate. You know, it's because they see you as successful and they don't want to support you. They want to pull from you, whether it's emotionally or physically, you know? And so early on, I learned that. And I think it's because I started working on the street, right? You start noticing who wants good, who wants to harm you, who wants to rob you, who wants to steal from you. You start picking up mannerisms and listening to what they're saying and what they're doing and their actions. And then you start learning and looking for these things when you talk to people. And so I people watch a lot, you know? And because of that, I put a guard up early on. You know, I've made a few mistakes, right, with some people. And after those mistakes, I learned a lot, you know, in business and friendships and whatever it is. And so I don't allow people to come in close to me no more, you know, and people don't like that when I say that or when I push them away, like, Mo, why are we not hanging out? Like, bro, I'm working all the time. You know, man, I got a lot going on. I literally work every day. So I don't necessarily have time to just hang out and BS, right? And if you're a true friend, then you understand that. Me and you don't get to hang out as much anymore.
No.
You know, we started a few months ago. We started doing our business meetings
Once a month.
once a month, you know. And the last few months we couldn't,
Yeah.
you know, but we talked about it a few weeks ago. Said, hey, we're gonna bring that back. We're gonna try to make time for it, but we don't get mad at each other. You know, I don't talk behind your back. Oh, he's Mr. Businessman now. He's too busy. He's too good, you know. Or I'm not doing it to get something from you. You're not doing it to get something from me. And so people are very envious. People are very jealous. People are haters. You know, people, the real thing and the sad thing is people don't want the best for you. You know, and so when you find that person that does, keep them close. When they truly, from the bottom of their heart, want it, and it's genuine, and it's clean, and it's pure, then keep them close to you. And that's how I feel with you, right? That's how I feel with Giovanni. Like Giovanni, he's been working with me for a year now. He's been working with me for a year. And he's giving me good tips. I've learned something from that guy every day. I ask him questions, you know? And he's genuinely one of the first guys that I come across that I genuinely trust. You know, he doesn't know, but I told my dad about him. My dad's asked about him. And from when I talked to my dad about Giovanni, my dad told me, like, take care of that guy. Make sure you keep him close. My dad hasn't even talked to this guy yet.
I'm about to cry.
You know? But my dad told me, this is over the phone, like, hey, keep that guy close. You know, he's seen him a couple of times. And he knows it's because the goodness, the pureness of his heart. You know, and so learning that at a young age, from who's good, who's bad, I pushed everybody away. You know, and now it's very few that I let in. You know, it's because of business. I can't take risk with that. And that leads me to say is like what happened with you. That's happened in the past with me, you know, and those guys are a prime example is they see something that you have to offer. Right? They see you of value and they lead you in, they draw you in and they get what they want and then they leave. You know, and these days you see that across the board and not just business. You see that across the board in everything. Use your imagination, you know, but that's why I keep a hand out and you can't get past this hand. I keep a wall between me and this person, you know? And the more I get to know you, the more I talk to you, the more I see your principles, the more I see your character, then that wall will start coming down a little bit. You know, but for me and you, it's been 14 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know? So we always call each other and we talk heart to heart, you know? And so that's another thing is, guys, you got to be aware. It goes back to your support system, but this is a different kind of support system, right? This might be a business partner. This might be a friend. Really, they're not a friend unless you've known them for 14 years or X amount of years. And if you've been through it, you've been through hard things. I've been through hard things. We've talked about it. You know, we've given each other tips. We've supported each other in the ups. We supported each other more in the lows, you know? And as being aware of who's around you, being aware of who's around you and what do they want from you, you know? Some people want to be around you because they want money. We call those gold diggers. You know what I'm saying? Some people want to be around you because they want to eat off your plate. They want to piggyback off of your success. And I've had that happen, and those people are right now talking crap behind my back. You know what I'm saying? And it's fine because they're talking behind my back because they're behind me. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the truth. And in business, you lose a lot of people. When you go into business, you lose a lot of people. But I tell people all the time, like, I haven't lost a real friend or a brother yet. The ones that I've lost, I don't look at it as a loss anymore. You know, at first, detachment is hard. Josh had to talk to me about this. Detaching from people and losing people. That's the hardest thing a human does, right? And at first, it's tough. But now, like, I haven't lost somebody that was good for me. Everybody that's gotten away from me has been a blessing in disguise. Every single person. That's the craziest thing about it. It's like business is a filter. You know?
Yeah.
I have not lost anybody that has been good for me. Every single person that's been pushed away has been negative influence. You know? And so for you, you know, you have a good support system. For you, you've lost that. It's not a loss, but that guy's not around you no more. That's a blessing in disguise because look at you now. You're doing it by yourself. You know, and the freedom that you have now is more, and the stress that you have now is maybe is less in an aspect. There's still always idea of stress, right? You're always stressed out, but it's not the stress of somebody bickering and crying and whining all the time, you know, or it's the idea of somebody that's using you, right? It's you for yourself, you for your family now, and you get to build that dream for your wife and your kids and yourself, you know. So guys, be aware of who's around you. Make sure they're good people, and don't just call everybody friends. People throw that around.
Yeah.
People throw that word around easily these days. You know, you have to go through the thick and thin before that happens. So that's your story is like the painting of business, right? You started from the bottom. You thought it was, you know, obviously it's extremely hard, but now look at you now. It's still hard, but it's a different kind of hard. You still, as hard as it is, and as hard it is to make your living, you still have that freedom that you wouldn't have working that other job.
No.
You know, and you're the prime example. You know, I would say that those 3-4 days that you told me you worked from 4 to, that's almost a 24-hour work day. 24 hours in one day. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of energy drinks in Copenhagen.
If you work 2 of those, you said you work 3 or 4 of those a week.
Yeah,
if you work just 2 of those, they made up for your 40-hour work week somewhere else. You know, so you went from 40 hours a week to 120, 130-hour work week. You know, and people think, hey, I get to work less when I have a business. No. You work 10 times harder. You work 10 times longer. That's why you need the strong support system. That's why you need the strong partner. That's why you need the strong friendships, strong networking connection with other business owners, because we remind each other that, you know? So 40-hour work weeks are, like I said last time, is for surviving.
Yeah.
It's for staying on the hamster wheel. But I believe in you, and you're going to be able to achieve whatever you want as long as you keep going down that path and operating at the highest level and sharpening your sword. There's one thing that I am going to add. is you told me you quit lifting weights to work more.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, you have to go back to lifting weights. You have to make time for yourself.
I did last week.
Good. Jocko, good. But if you don't, and that's the thing that I didn't understand until recently, the last couple of years. For me, like I go through these waves, and the last couple of years, thank God, I've learned a lot, you know. And one is the idea of sharpening your sword, right? If you're not sharpening your sword mentally and physically, then you're not giving yourself the opportunity to grow. You know, you're working, but all you will do for the next 5 years is just work, because you're not expanding your mind, you're not expanding your body, you're not going to give yourself an opportunity to see opportunities, because you're only working. You're not getting physically stronger, you're not getting mentally stronger, because there's a threshold that you hit. Okay, this threshold, you hit it when your body can only get to it. Right? There's a max amount of work that you can do, that you can mentally and physically get to, right? That you can handle. So imagine a bar here. You mentally and physically can only handle to this level, unless you change yourself mentally and physically. And when you change yourself, you sharpen those swords mentally and physically, then the bar goes up a little bit. And when the bar goes up a little bit, now your max threshold got higher. And because of your max threshold getting higher, now you operate at a higher pace in your business. You operate at a higher pace in your life, in your relationship, you know? And then when you keep doing that day in, day out, that threshold gets higher. And it keeps getting higher. And it keeps getting higher. And because of that, you start operating at a higher level in your business. And your business starts operating at a higher level, which in return gives you more freedom, and in return gives you more money, you know, and gives you more happiness. So I didn't know that until I didn't truly grasp it and see the possibilities that I got from it until I forced myself to do it. Reading and studying and podcasts, listening to guys, and working out. When I made myself do it, then I hit another level. You know, so you have to do those things for you to hit another level in business and in your personal life. So don't skip those things, you know. Make sure you're hitting them. And that's, in being in business, that's the hardest thing to do, is making 2 hours for you, because I can be working 2 hours somewhere else and finishing this job. That's our mindset. Yeah. Is let me go work, you know, let me go drop the kids off. I can start this job at 6 a.m. You know, I can finish it in 2 hours. I'll be done by 8 a.m. But the truth is, and if you got deadlines, that's different. But the truth is, if you take those 2 hours and you work on yourself, that's 10 hours a week that you're putting on yourself instead of 10 hours on the job. There's some jobs that you'll finish it in 10 hours, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you like, okay, let's just throw a number. That's $1,500. Just throw a number. It don't matter what the number is. $1,500. I can make $1,500 by doing that 10 hours of work. But the truth is, if you put those 10 hours on yourself, you'll make more than $1,500. Because physically you got stronger, mentally you got stronger. Now you're able to take more in. You know, now you're expanding your mind. You're giving your mind that ability to expand, which is going to give you opportunities to see and look for to make your business better. So work on yourself. Don't skip that out. And I know there was a time where you were going hard and sharpening your sword, and you're still sharpening your sword in a different way. But you need to implement, and it doesn't have to be a 2-hour workout. Guys think that. I work out for 1 hour a day. That's it. When I lift, I work out for 1 hour. I try to be done within 1 hour. As soon as I'm done with that hour, I have my breakfast. I eat my breakfast, go straight into work. It's routine, you know? But because I do my workout in a day, now I'm ready for the day, to conquer the day. Serotonin is going, dopamine is going, everything, you know? So I have a jolt of energy to get me going. So sharpen that sword every morning and then start your day. It will be better for you. That's Donovan Casteel's story, guys. I'm honestly super proud of him. It's not because we're on a podcast and I'm saying that, right? But like I said, for me, I love business. I'm so obsessed with it. And for me, when I see somebody that goes from 40-hour work weeks, and I remember years ago when I told him, I said, quit your job. And he wouldn't listen to me, and it would frustrate me so bad. But
I never understood why he worked 7 days a week. I was like, why don't you just go get a better job? And you don't have to work 7 days a week.
I remember you telling me that. He always tells me that. I remember when he told me that. He like, why you work 7 days? It doesn't make sense.
Come be an electrician.
You know, and I think you offered me that once.
Yeah.
You told me like, why don't you just be an electrician? And people never understood it, and I never talked about it, right? I never talked about why I did it, because I'm the kind of guy, I've been a little less private the last couple years because I want to help people and teach them about it, so I can't keep hiding things, right? Or keeping it personal and keeping it to myself. So I've been talking more. I've been sharing more, right? But I'm the kind of guy that I don't talk about things. I don't talk about a lot of private things, right? For me, in an aspect, and business is private, right? Relationships, personal relationships, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you want to put, that's private. Family is private, you know, because you have to protect that stuff, you know, and that's kind of stuff for me is not everybody needs to know about it. You know about my family, right? You know about my businesses, you know about my personal stuff, personal problems, personal good things, whatever you call them. You know a lot about it. Gio knows about it. I talk to Gio directly. You know, the ones that are close to me, I talk to them about it. We talk about business sometimes in depth, but that stuff I usually keep between me and myself or whoever is with me, right? And that's because my dad put that in me. That stuff should be taken care of. That stuff should be sealed in the vault, right? Not everybody needs to know that, because if people know that, they know where to hurt you, right? They know to eat off your plate. They know to poke you a little bit. They know they can use it against you, and so that's personal stuff. That's private, and so in an aspect, I talk I talk about why I work, because you used to always tell me, and I never used to talk like, hey, I want to do this because of this, right? I do this when you tell me, why you work 7 days a week, bro? Go get a better job. Work 5 days. Or you say, ask me to hang out. I'm like, man, I can't. I got to work. Or what are you doing? I'm working. Somebody asked me yesterday, like, hey, why are you not going to do this on this day? I'm working. Like, he pulled me aside. He's a good friend. And he's like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, all you're doing is working. What are you trying to do next? You trying to do more work? I'm like, yeah. Like, that's all I'm trying to do. Why? Coach Border got me this hat. He knows I like Yellowstone. And I like Yellowstone. It's a show, but it motivates me. John Dutton motivated me. He's a character in the show, but it's motivating. This guy owns Yellowstone Ranch. He owns the Dutton Ranch, thousands of acres. He got all the cows. He got the guns. He hunts the land. He has everything on the land, So why do I work 7 days a week? This is one of them, because I want to have that ranch. The only difference is going to be an I instead of a Y, And so my kids are going to be wearing the hat. My kids are going to be wearing our ranch jackets. You know what I'm saying? My kids are going to be working the ranch. And so that's why I work 7 days a week. My kids get to get raised from eating out of the garden. My kids get to be raised eating what they killed themselves, not what I killed. Of course, we're going to eat what I killed, right? But they're going to have to kill the animal. They're going to have to hunt elk. They're going to have to hunt deer. They're going to have to hunt ducks, turkey. They're going to have to hunt it. They're going to have to field dress it, process them. You know what I'm saying? Then they're going to have to eat it. Then have to go pick the garden to get the fruits and vegetables for dinner. They have to go through that whole process. And that's, for me, that process is very important. Back in the day, my grandpa went through it. My parents went through it. And then we didn't necessarily go through it. Now we're going through it. But I want my kids to go through that. I want us to live that traditional lifestyle, the farmer lifestyle, the cowboy lifestyle. I want us to rodeo up some cows and bulls. That's why I work 7 days a week. I want to work 7 days a week because I want to have the freedom to do what I want. And it seems like it's miserable, at first, and people always ask me. but it's not. It is miserable, but I know what I want, and because I know what I want, then I can do it.
Makes it easier.
You know, it makes it easier because I have to keep reminding myself why I'm doing this. And so I remember when I keep telling you, like, man, just work for yourself. And you would tell me the opposite. Hey, go work for somebody. And now, fast forward many years, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because we always have these jokes about us working. It's like inside jokes that we're always like throwing at each other. Like, how's business? You know, up and down. That's all we say. Because it's true. It's up and down. You know, sometimes it's up, and he's like, "Oh, it's up." You know, or I forgot what it was. I mean, you talked about it, and I told you, like, man, business doesn't care about how you feel. I forgot what topic, how we got to it, but you were saying something, and I think I was trying to tell you need to work more or something along the lines like, hey, just keep doing more. It don't care how you're feeling. If you're tired, you're happy. Like, business doesn't care how you feel, and that's the truth. And these little things are little things, but when you truly understand these things, then you can start becoming successful. Because at the end of the day, your business doesn't care how you feel. You can be depressed. You can be sad. You can be crying. You can be super happy. You can be extremely exhausted, tired. It doesn't care. You still have to show up and go to work.
Every day.
Every single day. Because if you don't, the company's gone. If you don't, your dreams are gone. You know? So that's the pivot that people need to make when it comes to the dream, is their mindset behind it, behind working for themselves. And the other one is the leap. The leap.
That's the hardest part.
The leap is the hardest thing, man.
Man. It's staying dedicated, because motivation is temporary. And I don't take credit for that. I don't know. Somebody said it. But
maybe Jocko.
Yeah. Motivation is temporary. And, you know, so you got to be dedicated even when you're not motivated to keep going. But I still think that the initial quitting is the hardest part. And then not really knowing, you don't really know how to navigate, you know, being self-employed or entrepreneurship, or however you want to say it, until you just start going in a direction.
You just have to start.
Yeah, you just got to go. And you learn, like, this is a dead end, I need to go here. Oh, that sucked too. Let me go this way. And you finally go in a direction that kind of gets you somewhere, and, you know, you keep going. But the hardest thing is just quitting. Like, that was scared me to death. I was like, what if I do it? Because then I stayed busy, but it was busy because I worked 40 hours for a company, and then I was working like 40 hours for myself on afternoons and weekends. And so I was busy. But you free up 40 hours, it's like, well, crap, I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
And so you have all this time. And yeah, you could just chill. Like, I just want to go to Thai class during the day and spar all day, every morning. That's what I want to do. But I don't ever really do that much. And because if I did do that, I would completely get out of my routine doing that every day, and nothing would get done. But it's when you have all that time, not just being stagnant and not trying to work on the business is what I'm trying to get at. There's plenty of things you can do to work on the business.
Yeah.
To go out and get work. I remember me and my wife, she helped me with it too. We made a list of apartment complexes in different cities like South Haven, Horn Lake, Hernando, all this stuff. And so when I was freed up, I'd go by. I spent all day just driving around, and I would go ask for the property manager. Half of the time they weren't there, either schedule an appointment or they just would never get back with me. And then the other half, I get to talk to them. I sit down, tell them my company, and then, you know, try and get work from them. You know, 98% of the time it didn't work. 2% it did, and that 2% was a lot of work. When some of these apartment complexes are 2,000-3,000 units, yeah. You know, I'll drive around for 7 hours and not get any work, and then 4 months down the road, well, now I get a call because I've left them a card and a flyer, and I spent an hour of my time there talking to them, trying to get a relationship built. Or I could have went and sat on my couch and ate Cheetos.
Yeah. Sitting on the couch eating Cheetos is always a good one. Um, but I mean, all that to say is making the leap, guys. And business is not. We're not here to convince you to go to become a business owner. I'm not. Some of you guys I will convince. I've already talked to some people that tell me that that's their dream of owning, whatever business it is. And some people have told me, and I usually see it from younger folks, right? Um, I don't want to work a 9 to 5. And those people that really mean it, like I would help and I would give my motivation to support them. But like some guys, especially older guys, they're like, man, job security, job security. And I respect it. I don't have kids. I get it. I don't get to necessarily put any input in that. And it's the other side is like, I don't know what you're willing to sacrifice either. Are you willing to sacrifice 100 hours of your week on your job? And I'll answer that question for you. Most guys are not. And those are the same guys that are crying about their job. I would say out of 10 people, every 10 people that I meet, I might meet one person that truly loves their job. One. If we want to make it a big number, 2 or 3. So the max, 30% of the people that I've met truly love their job. I don't know anybody that truly loves their job that works for somebody, And so that should tell you a lot, man. That should tell you a lot. And the scariest thing and the biggest thing is the leap of faith, right? Because when you want to quit your job and you want to start your own business, and guys, seek professional advice. We can talk more about this in person, but I don't want anybody to say, hey, I'm done working today. And then they don't have a plan, right? I don't want anybody to do that.
It was like a year and a half of planning, a year of planning.
It's a process, okay? But when you're making this leap of faith, it's like, imagine this mountain on this side, huge mountain. And then you're on top of it. And then there's a huge mountain on this side. And there's nothing in the middle. And it's like you can say it's like 100 feet gap. You have to make this jump. How are you going to make this jump? That's the way I look at it when I talk to people. And I'm not the one in their shoes, but that's the way I picture that they see.
For me, it was because I did, like I said, I had already just built a house. We had a couple kids. And so we had X amount of dollars that we had to have monthly to run our household on. And so it was a goal. And like I said, it took about a year to plan for that goal. And then I still didn't want to do it. And it all came down to my wife just telling me to suck it up, stop being a sissy and do it. Even when we had done what we felt like, we had gotten close to do or needed to do for us to have some security to quit. And so, I mean, it's another goal that you have to work towards, especially if you already have, a certain financial number you have to hit every month because you have a family and you have all this stuff that you have to pay for or provide for. You have to plan for it, and then again, you just work for it. I have friends that want to that talk about doing the same thing, and I'm like, just start. You got to give up for me. For what I do, because I can't just hire 10 guys to go do everything. With what I do, it's just not going to work. On top of it being so hard to find people. So I'm like, you got to give up your afternoons and you got to give up your weekends. Like even Saturday and your Monday through 3-4 hours a night to go start doing jobs and building up customers, saving up money, and then, get to have your goals you have to hit, and then when you hit that, quit.
Yep. And all this goes back to the same thing. All that to say this is it's sacrificing, And these days, nobody wants to sacrifice. It doesn't matter which topic you want to talk about. Owning a business, losing weight, putting on muscle, achieving this goal. Nobody wants to sacrifice whatever it is that takes to get to that point. And so if you can't sacrifice because it's hard, right? It is hard. Yep. Then you're going to live on this hamster wheel. You're going to keep the wheel turning until the day you die. That's all it is. You're going to keep doing this until the day you die. I want to lose 5 pounds. And you'll keep saying, I'm going to lose 5 pounds until the day you die. You know? And this particular thing, you have to start sacrificing by doing small things. You know, if you want to work at a gym, if you want to have a gym, start working at a gym 2 days a week. If that's all your schedule can handle, work at a gym 2 days a week. You know, if you want to work at a gym, go shadow somebody at any gym. If you want to have an electrical business, work at an electrical business, even though it's a pay cut. Even if the guy pays you $10, if somebody wants to work, and this I'm going to speak on your behalf for a little bit. I'm not saying he's the one hiring right now, but if you want to be an electrician and you have some electrical experience, come work for this guy for $10 an hour. Okay, for one day on Saturdays, just to help him, right? And eventually you're going to learn. The people don't want to do that, right? It's just small things like that. I ain't going to work for $10 an hour. Well, keep going and working for $12 an hour at whatever, or $15, or even $20. Keep working there until the day you die. Or sacrifice 4 days, 6 days out of the month, get paid $10 an hour, but you're learning a skill set and you're seeing if you truly want to do it and if you can get good at it, and then you go into it. But it's not going to just happen overnight. I want to own an electrician business, electrical business. I have it tomorrow. I start it tomorrow. No, bro, that's not how it works. You know? So you have to sacrifice to succeed. You have to sacrifice to achieve your goals. You have to sacrifice to achieve your dreams. And today's episode was about my good friend Donovan Casteel sacrificing a lot of things. And I can't be more thankful for you to be on this episode. I really appreciate you. And I really appreciate our friendship. And guys, any questions that you got about business, please shoot them over to me. If I don't know the answer, I will look for the answer. And if you own a business, we'll eventually get you on this show. I just got a big list of people that we're going to get on here. And thank you guys so much for tuning in, for watching, for supporting, like always. And like I said, anything that I can help you with, just shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me a message on Facebook. Shoot me comments on YouTube, Spotify, whatever it is that you watch us on. And I'll try to get the answer for you. I'll try to help you out as much as I can. I'll give you as much tips as I can. And we have a lot of business owners around us, so somebody can help you. And I am very interested in helping you guys. So please subscribe, follow Sharpen Your Sword podcast, and share, because the more we can get supporters, the more value we can give back to you guys. And that's what we want. Okay. We want you to succeed in your personal life. We want you to succeed in your business life. And that's our biggest goal, is to help as many people as we can. So thank you guys for tuning in for episode 3 featuring Donovan Casteel, my good friend, my brother, and my co-host and brother, Giovanni Jimenez. Peace out, guys. I'll see you on the next episode.
See you.
That's it.
That's it.